Hi, and welcome to another edition of Danny Brown Talks Phoenix. I am your host, Danny Brown, and this is our monthly market update for, what are we in now? For May.
Yeah,
we're in June. I cannot believe that we're already in June. The year is half over.
Yes.
Yeah. So, as always, join with me is Garrett Sergvenik of JFQ Lending. I always like to start with you to find out what is going on. So.
Okay. Easy enough. Rates are super low now. They are extra low. Lowest they've been in about 2 years. We're seeing, the same point that we were at, about July of 2017, which is incredible. Everybody thought last year that rates were going to continue to climb.
Yeah, I did.
We've talked about it for the last few months that, they were supposed to climb all the way through this year, and now we are at this crazy low point.
Just goes to show you that no one is good at predicting the future.
Nobody knows what's going to happen. And it's so, as I say, in times like these, it's a great time to look at a refinance.
Yeah.
I think
we're seeing a big wave of refinances. I think a majority of the applications that have been submitted to lenders are refinances for everybody who's basically purchased or even did another refinance within the last year and a half.
Yep, exactly. You have all these lenders that were trying to completely shift their business from refinance to purchase.
Yeah.
And you saw them kind of adjusting everything on that end. Quicken Loans is a big example where for their entire history, 95% of their business was refi, and you had a small portion that was purchase. And then,
Wells Fargo is another one.
Yeah, Wells Fargo,
started
Bank of
coming
America,
out with
Chase,
some amazing programs for purchases.
100%. And so there was this big shift in the market because everybody thought that's what they were going to have to do to actually stay in business because refi had dried up. And now we're seeing this huge wave of refinances. Rates are, you can get a 30-year fixed rate in the threes again, which is something that we haven't seen since, beginning of 2018 into 2017. And it's still costly to get down there. You're not going to, it's not like it was back a few years ago where you call in and the going rate was 3.75 and you could get down to, I remember when you could get a 2.99 on a 30-year fixed, a few years back. But, so it's still going to be a little bit costly to get into those threes, but you can get in the low fours, even 4% without paying any points, paying just a couple $1,000s in base closing costs or less. So it's a really great time to take a look at it, and talk to, your lender and, see if there's an option out there for you. There's still that stigma in the market, or that old adage that, you have to save 1 or 2% for a refinance to make sense. And it's just not the case.
Yeah, we've talked about that before.
Yeah. You have to look at your long-term goals and really see what, if something's going to make sense for you. For instance, I have a client that I wrote this morning, a client that I actually talked to last year about a refi. Didn't make sense for her at the time. But she called me. She said a 4.625% on her interest rate right now. We're going to take her down to 4%.
Jeez.
Which is not a huge drop, but it's a drop. She's going to pay closing costs to get there. Base cost about $2,500, but it saves her $100 a month.
Sure.
The first thing that I ask her is I say, what's your long-term goal for this home? Do you plan on being there for just a couple of years before you sell? Do you think you're going to be there long-term? She said, I'm going to be here for the next 10 to 15 years at a minimum. So spending $2,500 that's rolled into her loan to save $100 a month, she's got about a 2-year recoup time, so it makes sense. But there's also people that I would say that same scenario wouldn't make sense because they'll say, well, we're here for, say, 3 years on our house. Well, a 2-year recoup is still less than that, but, if you sell earlier, it may not be worth the risk. Let's keep you where you're at. Or let's look at a slightly higher rate like a 4.25 or a 4.375 that still gives you a little bit of a drop, and we can cover all your closing costs. So that's where it really comes down to working with somebody that you trust, that's going to advise you the right way, and look at your long-term goal and not just say, oh, yeah, we can give you a better rate, let's do it. Let's kind of look at your overall situation, see if something's going to benefit you. And if it's not going to, if there's somebody that you trust and that's trustworthy, they're going to tell you to stay put and not do anything.
So if you did a refinance or you bought a house recently and rates have gone down, how long do you have to wait, or how long do you have to be in your home before you can do another refinance or your first one?
So technically you can do it at any point. There is what's called recapture on a mortgage where, when your lender sets up a loan for you, if you refinance or do something else or sell, for instance, within typically a 6-month period, they lose the revenue that they made. So most, like for me, I obviously make a commission on a loan that I write. I have to pay that back if you refinance in 6 months. So I try to tell people, hey, if you can, wait 6 months. If you're not going to wait 6 months, at least come back to me and let me do it again for you, which hopefully they would anyway. But that way I can, offset the loss with the new one. So 6 months, but technically there's no rule. Okay. If you're doing a cash out refinance, a lot of times you have to be on title. Like if you just bought the house, you've got to be there for 6 months before you can do something.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you have to be on title for 6 months before you can pull cash out of your home. But some people also, when they do a loan, let's say they do a refinance and they pay closing costs, they say, well, I don't want to refinance again and pay those costs again. You can't let the money that you spent on the last loan deter you from spending it again on another one, because if it makes sense, do it. Like, don't miss out on future savings just because you don't want to, lose some of the money that you spent already. Again,
and people should keep in mind, if you are spending that, you have what's called your escrow and impound account, right? With your lender, that you're typically putting in a year's worth of funds in that account.
Depending, on when
in
you're
most
doing
situations.
It. Yeah.
So you get that money back.
Yep.
So you may be coming out of pocket to do your refinance, but then when you close your existing loan, close that escrow account to start a new one, you're going to at least recoup some of those funds. Am I accurate in that?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say that that's recouping costs though, because that's money that you've already paid in. So you're just getting your own money back.
Right. But I mean,
but it is going to offset. If you have to pay costs out of pocket, it will offset that. Most times with a refi, you can roll in your closing costs, so you don't have to come up with anything out of pocket. Then you also get that escrow refund. You get to skip a payment, sometimes two if you want. So you can end up with $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 back, depending on how much your payment is.
Sure.
Just through a refi without actually taking cash out of your home, which can help you with paying off credit card debt.
Yeah.
I always look at a mortgage as the best kind of debt that you can have. Because it's tax deductible, it's simple interest, not compounded like a credit card.
Sure.
It's usually a super low interest rate between 4% and 5%. So, keep that debt. And if you can use that debt, with a refi to pay off other debt, eliminate that first. Never put extra on your mortgage when you've got other stuff that you can pay off first.
I think the thing to remember when you do that is to, just because you've paid off your debts, don't start to get back into debt.
Yeah.
When I was in banking, I saw that a lot, where you would either do a cash out refi or a home equity loan or line of credit back when those were popular, and you'd pay off all this debt for someone, and then within a year or two they're coming back because they've just spent themselves back into a hole.
Yep. As Americans, that's unfortunately what we do.
I know,
and it's a vicious cycle, but yes, if you can, focus on getting rid of it and stay rid of it. If you have to close down credit cards, do it. Whatever you need to do to take yourself out of the situation of perpetual spending.
Gotcha. So for me, on the real estate side, the real estate market has been going gangbusters in this spring. So it's been the best spring that Phoenix has seen since 2011.
Holy crap.
And 2011 was when we were going through the bank-owned property frenzy, where people were buying up as many properties as they could get their hands on. So in the month of May, which is officially May 2019, is the best month that Phoenix has ever had in terms of overall sales.
Wow.
We sold just under 10,500. So just to give you some sort of benchmark, in June of 2011, we sold 10,300. So 200 more properties. And it's in an environment where we've got not a ton of inventory to choose from. And prices are higher than they were during 2011. So it's kind of signaling that the market's really strong. People kind of have more money to spend. The average price point in Phoenix has gone up to $278,000 versus $265,000 this time last year.
Wow.
So prices are definitely going up. I mean, that's almost 5%. And we're up 3% from just last month.
Do you think, so I know in the last few months that we've been talking about this, we started to see the market shift into kind of a balanced market, right? Where
that was towards kind of the end of the year when rates were going up.
So is that reversing now that rates are going down?
It definitely has in different price points.
Okay.
So when you're in your semi-luxury and luxury price point, that is still a buyer's market. Okay. Those homes are, especially now. So Phoenix sees a mass exodus when we start hitting triple digits in terms of temperature. And, our wealthier people that live in the valley who can afford to have winter home or summer homes rather, leave Phoenix. And those are typically the ones who are buying in the semi-luxury and luxury markets. So you're
just probably in the 500,000 to 800,000 range.
That's I consider that semi-luxury. Anything over $1 million is probably your luxury market for Phoenix. And so the days on market are much longer for those types of homes. Really, when you're sub 3, maybe even sub 400, the days on markets are really are much shorter. And the cheaper you go, of course, the faster the home's going to sell because there's just not a lot to choose from. Right now, active listings in Phoenix is 16,870. This time last year, we had only 16,000. So it is a little bit higher, but we're down 4% from last month. So with the aggressive, April and May that we had in the spring, listings are definitely coming down. Right now, we've got 12,000 properties that are under contract. That's down over 4% from last month. Like I mentioned, we sold 10,500 properties last month, and the average price per square foot right now is at $172.11 to kind of give you a benchmark. So, May is typically the springtime is the Phoenix real estate market is super predictable when we don't have any outside influences. That the springtime is insanely busy every single year, and that's really your January, February, March, April, May. Yeah, April and May. And then we start to see things really kind of die off and slow down in June, July, August. And then it does start to pick back up September, October, and November. We get that kind of fall bump when the temperatures start to go back down and people are going back to school, returning to the valley because it's cooling off. So we see the market pick back up during that time.
Do you ever see people take their home off the market for the summer and then put it back on, when it picks back up September, October, or is it just, inventory just kind of sits for a while?
My advice to people, if you're going to take your home off the market, if you're not going to take it off for at least 90 days, then it's not worth it. And the reason I say that is because the 90-day mark resets to 0 days on market.
Gotcha.
It takes 3 months for those days to disappear. So if you are planning on removing your home from the market, plan on doing it for at least 3 months so that those days go back to 0.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's not really worth it because the days just kind of continue to go up. I think that June has really started strong, but I don't think that's indicative of what June actually is. I think the reason that June started really strong is because May was so intense, and the first week of June, I think, is carryover from May, where we've got properties that are taking a little bit longer to close. There may have been some sort of delay, and that's why we're seeing such a huge start to June. I do not think that that's going to continue through the rest of the month.
Okay.
And I don't think it will continue through the rest of the summer or the rest of the year. I think that we will see a drop off in closings month over month. It probably will go down. And then again, like I said, kind of pick back up in the fall a little bit.
Okay.
One thing I wanted to touch on is that the Fed meets next week, and I do not think that they're going to adjust rates at all. And in fact, some experts are talking about when they meet in July that we might actually see the Fed cut rates.
Yeah, I mean, there's talk both ways.
Yeah.
I think we're not. I don't think we're in a position where we need to cut rates. I mean, the economy's doing okay. As is.
I mean,
so,
the jobs report just came out though, and
it was weak.
It was very weak. They were hoping that it would be 180,000 new jobs, and I think it was 75. Yeah. So the job market's definitely softening. And again, like I've said, we're terrible at predicting the future, and this is what we're doing right now. But we're going into an election year. It's going to be in 2020. I do not think that the president, I don't think Trump wants to see us entering into a recession. So I think they'll do everything within their power to continue to stimulate the economy. I think the big question mark that's out there again is constantly month after month is the tariff issue with China. We had that scare with the tariffs on Mexico.
Yeah.
Fortunately, that didn't go into effect. So there's just a lot of unknowns, what the future is going to kind of look like. So, I always tell people that instead of trying to predict the future, because we're all just so bad at it, even the experts are terrible at it, that you just need to do things when it's right for you. And for most people, when it comes to buying real estate, it's a longer term play. It's not, I'm not going to be buying a house today to sell it in a month. Typically, if you're a flipper or whatever, an investor, then you're different. But for your normal person, you're going to be in the house for 3, 5, 7, much longer term. So month over month adjustments, I don't really think that you should just pay too much attention to it. You should just do things when the time is right for you as the individual. Obviously we're big believers in owning versus renting. Statistically, people who own are wealthier than people who rent. And I'm always going to be a believer in that. And I know that you are too. So, I think the real lesson to these market updates are to keep you guys informed on what's going on, but really to drive home that you need to make the move and do what's right for you at the time that's right.
Yeah. If it makes sense, lock it down.
Yeah.
If it doesn't make sense, don't do it. But if there's a benefit there right now, take advantage of it, because it could go the opposite way and then you lose it. So.
Yep. Absolutely. So let us know if you have any questions. If you disagree with us, we'd love to get that feedback as well. And we will see you next month when we talk about what happened in June. And we'll see if my prediction is right, that things kind of fall off the cliff as we get later in the month.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you guys. And we'll see you next month.